Hello, everyone. Today, I want to start this episode by sharing a little more about me because before we talk about healing, we have to talk about the roots, about where we come from, about what shaped us. I'm Caitlin Gil-Soto, a Dominican woman born in the United States but made of sazon, soil, and memory from the island. My father, may he rest in peace and may God bless his soul, was born in Baní, the land of the mangoes and strong character. He emigrated to this country in the early 90s with that fierce Banilejo determination that doesn't back down. My mother, she was born here in the US, but her life was always back and forth between El Cibao and this side, between early morning cafecito con pan and the American reality that never truly felt like home. Her parents, my grandparents, emigrated to the US in the 1960s, part of that early wave of Dominicans who came searching for opportunities in a country that didn't always make space for our softness or our culture. They planted their roots here, but they never let go of the Dominican culture. And me, I was raised in both worlds. I spent entire summers in DR, at least a month every year, running through the fields, waking up to roosters, sweating under the sun that felt like a hug. That island raised me just as much as the countryside shaped me. Even though I was born here, I don't feel American. I'm Dominican, period. Dominican in spirit, in bloodline, and in my history. This episode isn't about blaming our parents. It's about naming what no one ever dared to say out loud. The emotional wounds passed down in silence, the absences we were told to ignore, the needs we had to bury. It's about looking at what shaped us and choosing with our whole heart, this ends with me. If you've ever felt like you were carrying more than you should have had to, if you recognize patterns that didn't start with you but still hurt you, this episode is for you. Welcome to Unfiltered and Unapologetic, the space where we heal out loud, release what's heavy, and stop pretending we're fine when deep down, we're just learning how to come home to ourselves. So let's start with the mother wound. The mother wound is the ache left behind by the love that was inconsistent, conditional, or absent. It forms in the ways your mother expressed or withheld nurturing, comfort, safety, or affirmation. Sometimes it's not what she did, but what she couldn't do because no one ever showed her how. The father wound is not always about physical absence. Sometimes it's emotional distance, harsh control, silence that cut deeper than words, or a presence that felt like pressure instead of protection. In many Dominican, Afro-Caribbean, and immigrant families, these wounds are rarely named, but they shape us. We grow up hearing, "Your mom raised you alone. You have no right to complain." Or, "That's just how your dad is. Don't be so sensitive." These phrases taught us to protect their pain before we could process our own. But this isn't about blame. This is about awareness. It's about finally facing the reality. They too were once children carrying wounds that no one helped them heal. So I have a journal prompt here. What version of love did you grow up with? Was it safe, conditional, silent? What did it teach you to expect from others and from yourself? And an affirmation for this question is, I am allowed to remember clearly. My truth is sacred. I can honor my parents and still honor my pain. Before we keep talking about mom or dad, we have to name something deeper. Many of the wounds we carry didn't even start with them. They were inherited from our grandparents and their grandparents, from an entire lineage shaped by survival, war, migration, poverty, repression, and unprocessed trauma. In many Dominican and Afro-Caribbean families, our ancestral history is full of silence, sacrifice, and pain that never had room to be felt. They lived through dictatorship, violence, displacement, racism, hunger, exile, and deep loss. And there was no space to heal, only to keep going. That keep going without healing became a tradition. Our parents learned to parent from that pain, sometimes with harshness, because that's all they ever knew, sometimes with absence, because they too were abandoned, sometimes with pressure, because survival left no time for softness. Healing the mother and father wound also means looking further back to what came before, to patterns we didn't invent but have repeated. Because what we don't transform, we transmit. I have a journal prompt here for you, another one. What emotional history did my family inherit without realizing it? What have we been silently carrying from generation to generation? And the affirmation for this question is I honor the pain that came before me, but I no longer carry it alone. With love and awareness, I choose to be the one who breaks the cycle. In many Dominican, Afro-Caribbean, and immigrant households, emotional expression wasn't modeled, it was punished. Crying meant you were weak. Speaking up meant you were disrespectful. Setting boundaries, that was being disrespectful, or like Dominicans say, being malcriado. And asking for comfort was often met with silence, dismissal, or guilt. This emotional repression creates deep, invisible wounds. Emotional neglect disguised as tough love, hyperindependence in children who had to raise themselves emotionally, people pleasing rooted in survival, doing whatever it takes to avoid punishment or rejection, low self-worth, especially in girls who were taught that love had to be earned through obedience, silence, or perfection. Boys who were taught to provide but never allowed to feel. Families where children are seen but not heard. Adults who now struggle to feel safe in their own emotions. Even religion was sometimes weaponized to keep us silent. God gives you strength, so be strong. Or honor your parents no matter what. But surviving is not the same as healing. And God didn't call us to carry generational pain. He called us to wholeness. And many Dominican homes pass down silence as strength, shame as discipline, and emotional absence as normal. If your mom never cried, it's because no one ever gave her permission to. If your dad didn't say, I love you, maybe no one ever said it to him either. And yet their inability to process pain became our burden to carry. Not because they didn't love us, but because they never learned how to show it. We inherited unspoken grief, generational pressure, and emotional walls that were built long before we were born. But we also inherited the power to break that cycle. I have a journal prompt here for you. What emotions or behaviors were labeled as bad or too much in your childhood? What parts of you were silenced in order to be accepted? An affirmation for this question is, it is safe for me to feel now. I no longer have to earn love through silence or shame. Unhealed wounds from our parents don't just linger in our hearts. They echo through every area of our lives. They don't just hurt, they limit. Why? Because if you were raised to believe that rest is laziness, then joy now feels unfamiliar, maybe even unsafe. If you were taught that love must be earned through sacrifice or silence, then abundance feels like a setup, not a birthright. If setting boundaries once led to punishment, then receiving support might feel like guilt instead of grace. In Dominican households, we hear things like, you're not better than anyone here. Stop being lazy. Life's hard. Suck it up. And so, as adults, many of us unconsciously undervalue ourselves in jobs, love, and friendships, sabotage the good before it gets taken away, distrust genuine kindness because we never experienced it without conditions, feel uncomfortable asking for help, rest, or anything beyond survival. This isn't just a mindset, it's what I call a spirit of scarcity. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about emotional scarcity, relational scarcity, and spiritual scarcity. It shows up when you reject peace because you're more familiar with pressure, when you flinch at love because chaos was your comfort zone. Until you heal what taught you you're only worthy when you suffer, you'll keep mistaking exhaustion for success and struggle for love. I have another journal prompt here for you guys. What part of me still believes I have to suffer to be worthy of joy, ease, or love? And the affirmation for this question is, I release the belief that I must struggle to earn rest or joy. I was born worthy. Peace and abundance are my inheritance. All right, let's talk about healing through faith. Healing the mother wound isn't about blaming your mom. And healing the father wound isn't about exposing your dad. It's about looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm no longer available for patterns that dim my light. Your healing starts with God, the one who was always steady, even when others weren't. And here I have a quote from Psalm 27:10. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. God becomes a parent your soul has been aching for, a safe place, a constant hand, a love that stays. Through him, you get to rewrite your definition of love, not as something to earn, but something to receive. Faith reminds you that you weren't abandoned, you were chosen. You're not the child begging to be picked anymore. You are already seen, already known, and already worthy. Okay, I have another journal prompt. What false beliefs about love and worth did I absorb from my parents that God never intended for me? And then the affirmation for this question is, I am held, guided, and deeply loved. My healing is sacred and I don't have to do it alone. Okay, now we're going to talk about active healing and what you can do now. Healing isn't something that happens by accident. It's not just journaling once, burning sage, or saying, I forgive them and moving on. Healing is active, it's daily, it's a choice. It's learning how to care for yourself emotionally like you would a sacred child. It's remembering how to feel again, how to speak to yourself with kindness, and how to make your body feel safe. That's what reparenting means. Becoming the parent you didn't have for yourself. And here's what that looks like in real life. Safety. Telling yourself it's okay to feel. I'm not in danger anymore. Nurturing. Comforting yourself without judgment when you feel overwhelmed. Structure. Creating routines, setting boundaries, and keeping your promises to yourself. Affirmations. Speaking life, not shame into your thoughts. And attunement. Listening to your body instead of pushing through the pain. When you grow up with trauma like yelling, pressure, abandonment, or being ignored, your nervous system adapts to survive. You may not realize it, but your body is still stuck in survival mode. This means your body learns to stay alert even when you feel safe, that resting feels uncomfortable, that love might disappear at any moment. All of this increases cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Over time, that can cause brain fog, mood swings, anxiety or depression, stomach problems, trouble sleeping, or hormonal imbalances, feeling tired when you rest, low immune system. This is not just in your head. Your body remembers everything your mind tried to forget. So, what can you do to actually start healing? You can start by regulating your nervous system. Try breathing slowly. Inhale for 5, hold for 5, and exhale for 6. Walk barefoot on grass, dirt, or sand to ground yourself. Splash your face with cold water or take a short, cold shower. Journal so your emotions don't stay trapped inside. You can practice inner parenting. When you feel triggered, ask yourself, what do I need right now? Speak to yourself softly. You're safe, I'm here, and I've got you. Set boundaries like a loving parent. That's not good for us anymore. We don't go there. You can connect with God as your heavenly parent. Pray not just for protection, but for comfort too. Let God show you what unconditional love really feels like. Sit in stillness with soft music, scripture, or silence. And you can also use your own people or your culture. Talk safely to friends or mentors who get it. Go to workshops, therapy, or church if you can. Heal with your roots. Cook, dance, sing, be in nature, listen to bachata under the sun. And I have a journal prompt for you guys here. How does my body react when I feel emotionally unsafe? What does it need in order to feel safe again? The affirmation for this question is, my body is not broken. It's the keeper of everything I survived. And today I honor it with patience, peace, and care. All right, now we're going to talk about how this shows up in men and women. The mother wound and father wound don't just shape our childhoods. They shape our womanhood, our manhood, our relationships, and how we show up in the world. And they don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper through self-doubt, silence, and cycles that feel too familiar to question. All right, in women, we become the caretaker of everyone else's needs and emotions, but abandon our own. We carry our mother's exhaustion like it's an inheritance, not realizing we're allowed to choose differently. We fear becoming our mothers while secretly grieving the love we never fully received from them. We perform strength, but deep down we ache for softness or for someone to say, you don't have to do it all. We date emotionally unavailable men trying to prove we're good enough for the kind of love our fathers withheld. We overgive in friendships, overextend in motherhood, and overfunction at work because being needed made us feel worthy. We say yes when we want to say no because saying no wasn't safe growing up. We self-abandon before anyone else can leave us. A Dominican woman might become the strong one, the aunt, the sister, the cousin, the daughter who was told to resolve everything, carrying a family on her back while slowly losing herself in the process. In men, vulnerability is seen as a liability, not a strength. Many become emotionally unavailable not out of malice, but because no one ever taught them how to feel and stay. They confuse providing with parenting, thinking money replaces emotional presence. They fear softness because it was punished in them as boys. They suppress emotions until it erupts as anger or silence. They feel immense pressure to be the man of the house without any space to rest or fall apart. Some become distant fathers, not because they don't love our kids, but because they don't know how to love themselves. Others avoid fatherhood altogether, not because they're irresponsible, but because they're terrified of repeating what hurt them. They might turn to alcohol, workaholism, or womanizing, not out of pride, but as a mask for pain they've never processed. They crave respect, but never learned how to give or receive emotional intimacy. A Dominican man might grow up hearing, los hombres no lloran, or men don't cry, and carry that silence into adulthood. He might think being strong means never needing help, never breaking down, never being held. But that kind of strength is lonely, and it's killing our men quietly. And then in both, we carry guilt we don't know how to name. We became perfectionists trying to outrun the shame. We seek validation through overachievement, performance, and productivity. We confuse strength with silence. We think we have to earn love rather than simply receiving it. We call survival normal, even when it's slowly breaking us. And what's wild is most of this isn't conscious. These are protective patterns, ways we learned to be safe in unsafe emotional environments. But they're not our truth. They're adaptations, and adaptations can be unlearned. I have a journal prompt here for you guys. What version of strength did I inherit, and what version do I want to embody now? And the affirmation for this question is: my strength is sacred, but so is my softness. I give myself permission to be both. And I have a prayer here for you guys. So put your hands on your heart and let's start. Lord, I surrender the wounds I inherited but never asked for. I give you the harshness, the silence, the absence, and the pressure. I no longer want to carry what was never mine. Teach me how to love without repeating pain. Make me mother, father, friend, and guardian to my inner child. Remind me that I belong to you, and in you everything I lacked becomes abundance. Amen. And now let's recap what we covered today. We covered what the mother wound and the father wound really are, how they're passed down in Dominican, Afro-Caribbean, and immigrant homes, how they show up in adulthood in love, boundaries, decisions, and self-worth, why they block abundance, and how they confuse us spiritually and emotionally, how faith in God's love can become your new foundation, how trauma affects the nervous system, brain, and body, what active healing looks like from breath work to boundaries to spiritual connection, how these wounds show up differently in men and women but affect us all deeply, journal prompts and affirmations to guide your self-reflection, and a prayer to close and soften your spirit. If this episode resonated with you, please leave a 5-star review and share it with someone who needs this message. Your review helps more people find this kind of healing content. And if you want to start your own journey of softness and reflection, grab one of my blank journals available now on Amazon, designed for healing, truth-telling, and coming home to yourself. Until next time, be gentle, be honest, and above all, be free.